Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's GuitarLessons.com live show, where we're going to be talking about a topic that I think is extremely important, and if you don't have it down, then you're going to have a hard time getting better at guitar. The good thing is that anybody can get this down, no matter whether you're a brand new beginner or you're a really advanced guitar player. We're going to be talking about practicing and setting goals, and this is something that's kind of near and dear to me because I'm constantly researching like the best ways to practice things and redefining my practice schedule and trying to set new goals for myself. I don't always do a good job at it, but when I do kind of implement the tips I'm going to share with you today, I notice a lot more progress and I feel a lot better about my playing, and I feel like I'm progressing as a musician and getting better at the guitar. So I'm going to start off by going over just some tips for practicing to make your practice time a little more successful and fruitful, and to make the most of it, because I know we all have really limited practice time that we can devote to the guitar. And even if you only have like 20 minutes a day to practice, I know a lot of you guys out there are in that boat, you can get better. It's just a matter of kind of implementing the tips I'm going to give you. And then once we get to the final tips, that's going to kind of shoot us off into the second half of the lesson, which is setting goals. It's a super important part of growing as a musician. If you have any tips that you want to pass along as we go through this, just leave them in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, because I'm still learning a lot about practicing and setting goals, and that's one thing that I like. I've gone through a couple courses recently, so leave those suggestions here, or share your stories of if any of these tips have helped you in your personal journey.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a ton of questions already. I was looking through the inbox earlier, and it also looks like there's a ton of people in chat today. So I think there's a lot of people that want to talk about this stuff.
Okay, good.
If you guys want to download the resources, there'll be the downloads tab. For those of you guys on YouTube and Facebook, if you do want to download the resources, you have to go to guitarlessons.com, just to the regular site, and you can download those for free as well. And then if you're a member, obviously you know where to do it. And also, we're going to give away a couple t-shirts today for the people watching on YouTube. Leave a comment below, and we're going to pick one of you guys, and you're going to get a free t-shirt. And then the same thing for Facebook. So if you're on Facebook and you're watching, leave a comment below, and we will pick somebody randomly.
Cool. Yeah. The jam track we just played to you that you can download in the resources is a really good example of some stuff we're going to get to later as far as practicing along to music. But like that's literally just an Apple loop that I slapped some drums to and worked on some things, or obviously I'm still working on some changes just going on in that. But we'll get to that later.
Yeah, it's called How to Make Andrew Look Bad at Guitar.
It was challenging because it's a very ambiguous progression.
It's very ambiguous, yeah.
All right. I have 8 practicing tips, and these aren't by any means all the tips you need to have a good practice session or make your practice better. But they are some things that I found really useful over the years, and I'm going to share them with you, and then we'll get into the setting goals part of this. The first one is have a set time and place to practice. It's easier to fall into a routine of successful practice when you have a set time that you practice and a place, your own little guitar world that you can fall into, just jump right in and start practicing. So have a set place and time. My favorite time to practice that I usually go for is after 9 o'clock on any given weeknight, because my fiance usually goes to bed, or she leaves my house around 9. Yeah. Then she goes, because she has a regular 9 to 5 job, and she's a musician too. But like as soon as she leaves, I know I have like 2 hours of focused practice that I can get to, and that's kind of my happy place. I sit on my couch with my amp next to me. Sometimes I have YouTube videos or whatever playing in front of me. We'll talk about that later. That's kind of a no-no. But that's my place. I also like to practice early in the morning, but I hate it at the same time because I'm not a morning person. But practicing in the morning, having that set time, getting it out of the way before all of the other stuff in the day starts to come and attack you and demand your time. That's what I would recommend the most. If you can get up at like 6 and have your half an hour or 30 minutes early from what you normally would, you're going to be done, you're going to be good for the day, and you're going to feel good about yourself because you made progress on your goals. Also, I don't have this problem because I have guitars all over my house, but if you're living in a place where you have to put your guitar away because it's maybe going to get broken or you just don't have the space, I would encourage you to try at least get maybe one of those guitar stands that hold on to your guitar for you by the headstock or something, because if your guitar is out and ready to go and tuned up and plugged in and everything, it's going to make it just a little more frictionless for you to pick up your guitar and start playing. So having your own little space that's set up, ready to go, and then having a certain time of day, just a routine to get into, it's going to make a lot of difference. And you don't have to stick to just those 30 minutes. You can practice more here and there. which is great. But having just that is a really good foundation to get started with your practice time. And I kind of led into number 2 here, and that's practice multiple times per day. There was a comment in the forums on somebody had a question that said, I heard it's good to practice multiple times a day. Like if I have 40 minutes, I'll practice for 2 20-minute blocks. Is that true? For me, it has been true, especially when I'm working on like a longer classical piece or something that requires a lot of muscle memory, or if I'm working on something new, like playing over a new set of changes like these. Practicing multiple times a day, what it does is it kind of forces your brain to recall it more often, and that helps you retain it a little bit better, at least from what I've read in some of the courses I've been through on practicing. So if you can practice multiple times a day, it can be in little shorter increments, like maybe 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening. But you're going to force your brain to recall the things that you're working on more often, and that's going to help them stick better.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Let's see. Let me get a little sip. Number 3 is something that I've gone kind of in cycles with my entire life because of different seasons of life. And that's have a musical goal for everything that you're practicing. And that can be jam tracks, jamming with a friend, a cover band, a song you want to learn, anything. But having a musical goal in mind gives your practice time some meaning rather than I'm going to learn this G scale or I'm going to learn this G chord. Well, what's the context for it? If you're learning your open chords, pick a song out to have a goal to work towards. When I was in college and music school, I had musical goals coming out of my ears because I had classical stuff I had to learn. I had jazz stuff I had to learn, which I'm not a jazz player, but I had musical goals that I had a reason behind, like all the stuff that I was working on. After that, when I went to school for like business and stuff, I was like, I have to get better, and I would just practice chops or scales or something like that. And it worked as far as getting my chops better, but they weren't really worth anything because I couldn't implement them in a musical setting.
Interesting.
But after that, once I got this job and started this, then I constantly had musical goals, and most of the time they're jam tracks for you guys.
Yeah.
Which is great because they're based off of cover tunes, and when you start building that vocabulary, that's super valuable to have. So you have a reason for all these scales you're learning. You have a reason for all these chords that you're learning too.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually going to mention that because, especially for the members, they're pretty lucky because that's your whole thing, is to always make sure that every single concept, every single technique you learn, there's a way to apply it to music. Right. Really helps.
And if you're kind of an intermediate player, even like an upper beginner, you don't have to go out and play anywhere, but like start a quasi cover band with your friends and be like, I got to learn 10 songs in 2 weeks. I got to get on this, right? And then you're going to start to find that, I have to learn this new chord, or I have to learn this new lick, I have to learn this new technique, and all that's wrapped up in music, which is the way it should be anyway. So.
For sure.
Number 5 is not really like a practice point or something to implement in your practice. It's kind of more a mentality thing. And I got this from a sales meeting I had when I was working at a music store. Our manager was going over the top 10 ways to fail at sales. And it could have been applied to anything, in this case practice. But this one was count yourself out. If you count yourself out, you will fail. And all I mean by that is if you think that, I can't do this, like there's no way I'm going to ever be able to play over those 2 changes in that jam track we played earlier, then you're not going to be able to do it. But if you, think about like something like that to yourself, you hear some negative thought in your head, and you think, you know what, I can do it. It just takes some work, and start applying yourself, then you're going to notice you can do it. But if you count yourself out before you even started, you may as well put the guitar down and just, go do something else. So even if you're a very beginner guitar player, don't count yourself out because that's the fastest way to make sure that you're going to fail. And in your practice time, it's easy when you're first starting that, 5 or 10 minutes where you feel like I just can't do anything. Ignore that, press on through those first 10 or 20 minutes of practice, or if you all you have is 20 minutes, press on through that first 5 minutes of practice, and just, literally say out to yourself, I can do this, and that'll help you a lot.
It's funny, we were talking earlier where it's like every time we go to pick up when we practice, like, man, I suck right now.
Yeah, that's just the way it is. I mean, I've talked to a lot of really good guitar players who are like, it's a thing like staying in a constant state of being warmed up. And they're the same way. If they don't practice for 2 days, they're like, yikes, well, this feels terrible, right?
Yeah.
I'm bad at this. But press on through that first initial little time in your practice session, and you will feel better about it.
Big time.
Let's see, number 6, and I know these are all going to be addressed in the questions later because I cheated and looked at them. Number 6 is work on multiple things at once if you can. Now, let me preface this with this. If you're just brand new to the guitar and you're working on just getting a G chord down, just focus on getting that G chord down. Divide the challenge. Don't worry about strumming. Don't worry about changing between chords. Nothing like that. Just focus on that one single activity. But if you're more of an intermediate or advanced player, I think it's good to work on multiple things at once if you can. And the example I have of this is working on chops. Like, a lot of guys are just chop monsters, and I've been guilty of this a lot over the years. I just work on chops. I'm like, great, I have some speed and I can go through a scale. What am I going to do with it? Instead of just working on chops, for example, try to work on chops with a new scale.
Yep.
Or try, let's see, what else do I have written down here? Or try to navigate the fretboard in a way that you hadn't recently been able to. That lesson last week of Jacob Weens when he was going through improvising with scales on the fretboard is a great example of that. That's something that I started incorporating into my playing. Instead of just memorizing the notes on the fretboard and drilling them, I started doing some of those exercises because it works on fretboard layout, and at the same time I'm working on memorizing the notes on the fretboard even better than they already are.
Totally.
So if you can, try to work on multiple things at once. So if you're working on maybe your strumming, try and throw some new chords or learn like 1 or 2 new chords that you haven't recently learned. That way you're working on your strumming at the same time, you're getting a couple new chord voicings down. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Number 7 and 8 kind of go together, and they lead us into what the rest of the lesson is going to be. Number 7 is set goals. And I'll get more into this later. I kind of want to go through these together. So set goals. Number 8 is put a time limit on your goals, or a date you're shooting for where you're like, I want to have this done. And now I'll go through the whole. If you look up the PDF, I have a couple paragraphs written here. I'm going to do kind of a synopsis of what's written there, but it's really good to read this every day for the next few days, because we're going to go through setting some goals for yourself and your personal guitar playing, right? So setting goals is one of the most important things to do to give you clarity. So when you sit down and play the guitar or practice the guitar with your limited amount of time you have, you're going to know exactly what you need to focus on. There's going to be no question of, oh crap, what do I play? I'm sitting here. Instead of, you may just sit there and play some power chords for a while, and then all of a sudden all your time is gone and you haven't made any progress on what you want to do, right? And a lot of times the reason for that is you just don't have a goal. You haven't defined what it is we want to do. When you have a goal and you've written it down, you're going to give a lot of direction to your playing, your limited time that you have. And I'm not talking about something like, I want to be Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yeah.
Or I want to be a great guitar player. That's way too big and overarching. And if you sit down in a practice session with that goal in mind, you're going to be like, dear God, where do I start? And a couple more examples of some more reasonable goals would be, I want to learn all my open chords, my main open chords, and I want to be able to change through them smoothly. That's a very reasonable goal, and it can be broken down into practice points. Another goal, for an example, would be like, I want to learn one major scale shape and work on improvising with it and just be able to, pull melodies out of it. That's another really reasonable goal, where you can break it out into multiple practice points, where you maybe have an A day and a B day, because that's a bigger goal, I'd say. But it is a lot more reasonable than, I want to be a world-class lead guitar player.
Yeah.
Well, how do you quantify that, and where do you start? So
For sure.
Let's see. The next kind of little sub point of setting goals is make sure not to set too many, otherwise you're going to feel overwhelmed. And you'll be like, dear God, what do I start on? And I've been guilty of that. What I end up doing sometimes is I make a master list of all the things that interest me and that I want to practice, and then I'll be like, I'm only picking 3, I swear. And then inevitably 6 or 8 or 10 will end up on there. So I'd really recommend only writing down 3 or 4 goals at the most.
Right.
That way you can really focus on them. And if you have super limited amount of practice time, you're going to have time to devote to each one of those goals, even if you have to stagger like A day, B day, throughout the week. Let's see. And that kind of leads us into the second page of the PDF, where the challenge is, once you've set your goals, how do you break them up into practice points to where you have actually a bullet list of specific things you need to work on to get better on the guitar. And that can be difficult, especially if you're new to guitar. You may not know what all the things you need to be working on. So I have a little grid here. At the top of the grid, there's 5 categories that pretty much every guitar player should be working on to some degree. And the first one is musical playing, which we kind of already talked about, applying everything to music. The second one is chords and scales, so your Rolodex or library of chords and scales that you know on the guitar. The third one is technique or technical playing. The fourth one is kind of a group, because they're a little bit more dry. It's theory, ear training, and reading. So you don't have to work on all those at once. You can pick maybe just one of those out a day if you want to work on a little bit of theory, or maybe you have a B day where you work on just a little bit of ear training, something like that. And the fifth category is styles, and that comes down to personal preference, really.
Yeah.
Say if you're really into blues, you want to devote some time to just working on the blues.
Yeah.
So, but under each of those categories are like 5 little categories that you can, subcategories that you can pick from, and those are just examples. They're really common examples. So under musical playing, maybe you said, okay, on Mondays I'm going to do musical playing. I can either learn a new song, like a cover song. You can jam with friends, learn new riffs, use a jam track to just improvise over, or play along to a rhythm guitar, and or just like specific play along songs. There's a lot of those out there too.
Yeah.
But the idea would be to pick your goal and then pick one subcategory from each of the main categories on the grid we have going here, and that's going to fill up your practice time, and you will get better if you do that. So, and you're going to see how once you get into more specific goals, you're going to be like, it's easier to choose from this grid and kind of fill it in. So I have 2 example goals for you, and I kind of already mentioned them. The first one is, let's see, what is it? It's to learn and change between my open chords smoothly. And this is a great topic for people who are just getting back into guitar or beginners. And if that was your goal, let's say that was your goal, the first little subcategory that I would pick would be learn the individual chords, A, C, D, E, G, A minor, D minor, and E minor chord shapes. Learn those shapes. So that would come from the chords and scales.
Yeah.
A column there. The third practice point would be work on switching between those chords. And I would probably put that under like the technique part of the grid. And the third one would be learn a song. In this case, I have, for an example, learn and play along to the song Brown Eyed Girl. Because you can get away with that with all open chords. You can be whatever song you want. But the one thing that I would encourage you to do is, if you have a goal and you've picked 2 categories already, and you don't have a musical application or a musical playing one, make sure to throw one of those in there, because that's going to help tie everything together, and it's going to give you a really cool result at the end of your goal. If you've set a date for your goal, you can be able to, I can play this song now because I worked on this, this, and this.
Totally. I also think that musical application is probably the best way to like actually gauge your progress yourself too. Yeah. Right? Because you start it at the beginning, I can't play the song. By the end, oh, I can play the song.
Exactly. And if you wanted to throw another practice point in there, you can maybe say do music theory. And since the song Brown Eyed Girl is in the key of G, you could be like, I'm going to just try to understand the key of G, memorize what chords are in it, those types of things. And one of the most important parts here is there's a due date at the end of the little lines there. And I have, August 18th written in there, because that's about a month from today.
Yeah.
So that's a good goal, solid. You're going to have something very concrete at the end of it that you can say, I can play. And even if you don't reach your date, your target date, you're still going to have made progress, because when you put a date or attach it to something, it's going to light a fire under your butt. And you're going to be like, crap, I only have 2 weeks left to get this down. So even if you don't hit it, you may have to take an extra week or 2, but you're still going to be making progress.
Yeah. Yeah, very cool.
Cool. Let's see. The second example I have as far as a goal is learn how to improvise with one major scale shape. And the first one there, little subcategory or practice point I have would be like work on the major scale shape that you want to learn. Just work on getting it under your fingers, and that would fall under the chord and scales category in our little grid. The second one will be work on alternate picking and legato technique. So this could be anything.
Yeah.
If you're not too particularly interested in learning how to alternate pick, that's fine. Work on your hammer-ons and pull-offs with that major scale shape. Anything, any lead technique or anything like that would work in that situation.
Yeah.
And the last one, of course, is musical application, and that's jam along to a jam track using the major scale. Just making up solos with it and actually making music with it. That way you can use it when you need to, whether you're jamming with your friends or maybe you're learning a song and you start to pick out a run out of it. It's like, oh, that's just part of the major scale.
Yeah.
So it's already there.
Yeah.
Cool. And I know we have a lot of questions, so I went through that kind of quickly. And I guarantee you for the questions, I'm going to come back and reference a lot of the stuff that we just went over. But the last page here is, for you guys, it's the most important one for today, because if you use this and fill it out, it's going to give you a lot of direction in your playing, and you're going to see a lot of progress, like regular progress out of your playing. And it's just a blank sheet with 3 goals written out for you, or 3 spaces for goals. So just write out some very attainable, practical goals for yourself, and then look at that grid if you need help bussing it out into practice areas, or you could check out the members area if you need ammo, or things to learn like scales, chords, technique, strumming, all the things like that, theory. And you could fill in your sub points, your practice points with those. But for right now, you can do it right now, or you can take like the rest of this week and really think about and get specific with what it is that you want to do on the guitar, because if you don't know what you want to do, then how you're just going to sit down, and I guarantee you your practice time is not going to be as productive as it could, and you're going to kind of waste it away by just noodling on the guitar, which is fine sometimes. Sometimes we just need to sit down with a therapy session with our guitar, right? That's cool. But literally fill this out. 4 goals at the most. 2, I would say 2 at the minimum maybe. And just fill them in. And if you need help, like plotting these out, Andrew and I can help you. But make sure you attach a due date to them too. And if you're way off on your due date, don't feel bad about that. You can always revise it.
Yeah. Well, and I don't want to misquote statistics, so I'm not going to use exact numbers, but I know that you are far more likely to reach or accomplish a goal if you write it down, right?
And that's the whole purpose. I'm going to share mine with you. I updated them today because, it may take me a second to find this. I updated them today because that lesson Jacob did was like, I need to work on some different things and kind of consolidate some things to be more efficient with my time. And my playing focus right now is going to be, or my goals are modal positions. So if you don't know what that is, I'm like literally for this jam track we did, it was the first chord was E minor. So I went all over my positions for E Aeolian or the 6th mode. Like for example, I took this minor pentatonic, then I went up the arpeggio, then the minor 7 arpeggio, then the natural minor scale. And then I went to the next position, up, then did the same thing.
Ah, yeah.
Then the minor scale. Then the arpeggio. And I did that for all 5 positions last night. That's one thing that I'm working on. And then after that, kind of like as a musical application for that, I'll put on either a jam track or I'll take my looper pedal and just play a chord progression and try to work in those types of modal ideas as far as knowing where E minor is everywhere on the fretboard.
Yeah.
Let's see. Then I've been doing a little bit of ear training every day, which it's a different practice session. Like at a random time of the day when I need a break from work, I'll pull up this program that I have and do some ear training. I'll do 100 intervals. And then guess what they are, and once I've done 100 intervals, I'm done.
That's very cool. What do you use for that?
It's a program called Practica Musica.
Okay.
It covers everything ear training and theory related. It's crazy. It's super useful. I've been using that for years.
Cool.
I've also, another goal of mine is to get to know my keys inside out and better. So I need to know exactly what number all the chords are in G major. I need to know how to spell G major. Yeah. I need to know where everything is on the fretboard as far as keys. So I'm taking a couple exercises from Jake's lesson last week and implementing them. Instead of just, like I said, going through the notes on the fretboard and memorizing them, I'm taking a couple of those exercises, picking 1 key per week.
Yeah.
This week it's F major or D minor.
Yeah.
And just spending some time on that. Let's see, what else do I have? Singing modes. Taking some time to sing modes. Oh, along with that, I mean, a lot of my stuff's kind of modal focused right now, but singing, like if I'm focusing on E Aeolian this week, I will try to sing along with the scale for at least, 10, 15 minutes and just try to internalize what that mode sounds like. And the last thing I'm working on is original music.
Ah, yeah, right.
That sounded like a lot, but 3 of those are kind of all in the same category.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Yeah, very cool.
So that's my practice routine right now.
Yeah, I don't want to share mine because mine is not as good as yours. That's something that I know my main focus has been trying to pick up my acoustic guitar more, which I've been doing, but I really need to sit down and write some goals down. Yeah. Okay, well, should we jump into questions?
Yeah, it looks like there's a whole page full.
There is a whole page full. Cool. One thing I will say is people who are members, they don't have a way to win a shirt. So for those people, just as long as you say something in chat, you will be eligible as well, just so everybody has a chance.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Okay, so we got a lot of questions.
Fire them. Oh, we got plenty.
And they're all like novels. Okay, this one's from Les Johnson. Hi guys, I'm like most others that work and have family commitments and have limited time. So it would be good to have a nudge in the right direction as to what to prioritize. As you know, I love to write my own songs, and from what you've heard from my music, what would you say is the thing to maybe focus on in terms of adding new scales, techniques, flavors, etc. here on GL or over on GS as well? I've mainly used minor and major pentatonics for lead guitar stuff and would like to add to these scales.
I could say so many things here. I have heard your music. It's pretty cool, man. He's got a whole like theme going for this album he's doing. But probably for you, one practice point that I would definitely add for my lead time is to memorize the arpeggios over the scale shapes that you're playing, that you're using. That way you can emphasize the important notes over those chords, if that makes sense. That way you can be more selective about what notes you're hitting. And then once you do that, get into, especially with your kind of music, I think expressing different modes would be really cool because it gives a whole different flavor to what sound you're doing. And it sounds like you're doing a lot of minor stuff too. So maybe experiment with the Dorian mode. It's a little bit different sounding than just regular, natural minor.
Yeah.
Also, when I write things, I tend to write them in Guitar Pro and write them over my head. So I just, I can put out on the page whatever comes to my mind, and I'm like, well, that's great. Now I have to learn to play this. It's challenging. That's that's one of the ways that I kind of push myself as a guitar player. So you might want to experiment with that too.
Yeah, very cool. Another thing I would just suggest is focusing on like more melodic playing, and I always recommend this to people, but is breaking your major, minor, either just regular scales or pentatonics over one string and playing them just on one string and try and think a little bit more. Not that you're not doing this, but just as a way to kind of help with melody and making that lead guitar kind of do something that maybe a human voice would do.
Yeah, maybe sing a melody, because I know you sing too.
Yeah.
And then try it with no mistakes to hit that on one string.
That's
within a scale.
Even better.
Yeah.
Even better. Yeah, I like that. For those of you guys that haven't checked out Les's stuff though, it's awesome. It's over on SoundCloud and it's such cool, experimental, kind of like a little bit progressive kind of stuff. It's very cool. Very cool.
It's like a progressive concept album.
Yeah, I like it a lot. Okay, next one, another long one. This is from Subhendu3116. Hi Nate, I have some questions or doubts. I started Acoustic Beginner Guitar Quick Start series and reached lesson 11, but my experience is low as sometimes I become really hesitant to mark a video as complete. I feel that I'm not playing well what you're playing. So is it all right to move to the next video, or should I continue with the video until I'm perfect, or if I give myself 30 minutes a day of practicing? This year I made a target of finishing the Acoustic Beginner Guitar Quick Start series lesson plan. I'm really passionate about learning guitar, but sometimes I just get stuck on a lesson and I lose confidence and find it difficult to carry on.
If you're feeling bored or stuck, I would at least start incorporating some other things just so you don't feel like practicing the guitar is a drudgery or something you dread. Maybe put that aside for a week or two and work on some other things that are interesting and come back to it. Maybe that'll give you some fresh perspective, but there is something to be said for just pushing through and being consistent with your practice. So you can divide it up. You can even have A and B days. Like you can work on that Beginner Quick Start acoustic series or lesson plan on A days. And so you can keep your progress going there, but maybe on your B days, like Tuesdays, have something else that you're interested in that you want to learn. And I know that lesson plan has a lot of like milestones or goals as far as songs that you want to play, so that's great.
Yeah.
So, but like whatever that a B day is, that Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, whatever it is, make sure you have a musical goal there too and something to push forward.
Absolutely. And one thing he mentioned is that he's 30 and he wants to know if it's too late to start playing where he's at. Heck no.
No, we have people, I think the oldest person on that uses the guitarlessons.com is 85 or 86,
Yeah,
the oldest one that I've known.
Yeah. It's never too late. Music's awesome. Like everyone thinks they pick up the guitar with the end goal in mind, and I'll tell you, like I've been playing my entire life, Nate's been playing his entire life, we're still nowhere near where we want to be. It's all about like the journey along the way, right?
Yeah.
Okay, next question. This one is from Merlin606. Hey guys, I've had quite a big identity crisis when it comes to guitar playing in the last few weeks. As a result, I barely practiced. I just have trouble deciding what kind of guitarist I want to be. On one hand, I see myself more as a rhythm guitarist and singer, but on the other hand, I'd love to be able to play solos. Improvising and shredding aren't goals of mine, but nailing down some awesome solos definitely is. I just don't know which direction is right for me. My main goal is writing and singing my own songs. Any tips or help finding my own unique identity would be much appreciated.
My fiance Chelsea is kind of divided like that too, because she's a singer-songwriter, and the thing she has really limited time. So the thing she has to work on, or has to work on, is writing songs.
Yep.
And performing them and executing them. So one thing that she's been doing lately is to take something that she likes, in this case fingerstyle, and incorporate it into writing her songs, and that's been her focus lately. It's just kind of naturally happened. It sounds like if you're a singer-songwriter, and this is going to help your lead playing too, I would probably get the rhythm guitar fundamentals really nailed down, because it sounds like you're going to use that more often. And then if you really have rhythm guitar nailed down very well and you understand how the fretboard is laid out, that's going to automatically help your lead guitar when you go to use it too.
Yeah.
And let's say you're learning a song and you have to sing and play rhythm guitar on it. Try and pick a song that has a little solo on it. That way you're not spending tons of time, and you're not going to be overwhelmed with trying to learn it. But your core skills are going to be there as far as rhythm guitar and singing, because that's your it sounds like that's your primary.
Yeah.
And then if you don't have that down and you have lead down, you're not going to be happy.
Yeah.
If you have rhythm guitar and singing down at the same time, you're going to be happy, and then the lead guitar will be icing on the cake. I feel like a therapist right now. But I could be wrong, but it sounds like your main goal is to sing and play rhythm guitar at the same time. And literally, if you really dig into that and understand it, like if you understand this is the root, this is the root, this is the root, this is the third, this is the fifth of that chord, that's going to help you a lot on lead guitar when you actually make a jump, or when you come across a solo in a song that you really want to learn.
Yeah. And one thing I will mention is, as the guy who was the lead guitar player of my band, 95% of my time I'm playing rhythm guitar. And so rhythm is such an important foundation no matter what your goals are. So even if you don't know yet if you want to do lead guitar, focus on that rhythm guitar stuff, focus on the singing and stuff. And even being a singer is going to help your lead guitar playing down the road, because you're going to be able to recognize like cool, catchy stuff too when you're playing.
And if like probably the first step I would take is just get a solid understanding of the major scale. That's going to help your rhythm guitar playing a lot, and it's going to help. If you know one major scale shape, you can buy a whole gig with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially if you're doing like original music, and you can kind of plan ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. But I totally agree with you, Nate. Like, it sounds like you are a rhythm guitar player and a singer, and that should be your focus for now. Okay. Onward and forward. This is from Druiz916. I am a beginning player. I am practicing my chords daily. I also enjoy practicing songs with chords I am learning, although quite badly at this point. Is it counterproductive to practice songs before learning to play the chords well, or is it helpful to practice?
I think it's helpful in the fact that you're playing along to music and it's fun. It's probably going to frustrate you if you don't take some time to get the ability to change between chords smoothly down. Because like, I know people that have been playing for years and they still don't change between chords that smoothly, and it's just they never took the concerted effort and time to get stuff like changes like that down. And there are things you can do, like if you haven't gone through changing chords smoothly that series on the side, definitely go through that one.
Yeah.
And apply that not only to the chords there, but to every song that you're learning. If you have a particularly difficult chord change you're going through, just take all the principles there and apply them to those two chord changes for a sustained amount of time, for a week, couple weeks, however long it takes. But at the same time, you want to be having fun while you're playing guitar, so play along to songs,
Yeah, as long as it's not getting too frustrating too,
Yeah.
like, it's great to push yourself, and it sounds like that's something you're doing too.
But if you hear yourself not getting any better as you play along
Right.
those songs, then there's a problem, and you need to go back and build a stronger foundation. Changing.
Yeah. Next question. This one is from Nylock1004. Hi guys, do you feel that having many, maybe too many directions to head down is a plus or a hindrance when it comes to practice? I am 19 months in now, and I feel it hasn't hurt my progress by jumping from style to style regularly. In fact, I think it has helped, but obviously I don't know the other side of the coin, as I am guilty of the cross-training. Sorry, you may have noticed I accidentally included this in the form. Oh yeah, it was in the forum as well.
Oh yeah, I read it earlier
You
today.
responded, yeah.
The problem that I've had, I can give you like a personal example, is like I said earlier, every once in a while I'll make a master list of things that I want to work on, and inevitably I go from having 3 goals to having 9 or 10, and then I feel like, oh crap, I suck, I'm not getting any better because my time is so divided with all of those things. I think it's more effective to have a really clear goal of what you want to do with your playing than, like we said for this lesson, write down 3 goals to work on and then put a target date on them. You say, I'm going to work on just this for the next, I don't know, quarter, half a year, who knows how long it takes. And you'll notice that once you work on these things more and more, you're going to be getting better. And you're like, oh, what? I don't think I really need to have this in my practice routine anymore. You can replace that goal with something else. That's what I would tend to. Now, if you're having fun just jamming to different styles, set aside some time in your practice schedule for that, just to have fun.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just because guitar is more than just about progressing and becoming the master guitarist, right? It's about having fun too. That's pretty much why most of us, I would say, started to play anyway.
yeah.
It's either that or to impress someone. So.
Yeah. That's funny.
Oh, they just keep rolling in, huh?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know. We gotta just keep moving. Okay. Next one here is from Kung Furon. The problem I think I'm having with practice is I'm not sure I'm doing the right thing. What would you recommend for that? Just not knowing.
First of all, if you haven't started a lesson plan on the site, I would definitely start with one of those because all those are very progressive, laid out, and it's exactly from series to series exactly what you need to do. If it's something else, not specifically covered there, but if you're just starting out, most everything should be covered there. Just take a look at this PDF and write down your 3 goals, and then pick 3 of those categories out of the 5, and come up with little practice points. So, if let's say you have trouble strumming, take some time and don't do anything but work on your strumming hand. This is the technique part of things, right? And go through strumming technique 1 on the site. And if you can strum, that's great, but what about the chord changes, right?
Yeah.
I assume you probably know a couple chords, but can you change between those chords smoothly while you're strumming? So it depends on what your goals are, but if you haven't written down any specific goals, for example, like I want to be able to learn all my open chords and change between them smoothly while strumming, you need to do that because that's going to give you definition in what you need to spend your time on as far as your day-to-day practice. And if you want to, I don't know if you're watching right now, but if you want to submit a follow-up question, maybe you can let us know where you are and what you've been working on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be good. Okay, next question here. This one's a little bit off topic, so we'll touch on it quickly, but maybe it's something that we can cover in a future live lesson a little bit more in depth. This is from John Murphy. Nate, please can you touch on bass runs at the start of a song? Example is Folsom Prison Blues or between chord changes.
Okay. Usually when you do a bass run in a context like that, I haven't played the song in years. Let me get some of this gain off here. Stuff like that, Folsom Prison Blues, things like that. You're just getting you're making it interesting to get from one chord to another. So if you're on a G chord, and the song is in the key of C, I can't remember Folsom Prison Blues. It's escaping my mind. I'm thinking Ring of Fire.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Anyway, start on a G, it's in the key of C. Right?
Yeah.
All I did was walk up a C major scale. G,
Yeah.
A, B, C. And then land down a C chord, right? And all I did there was go from that C chord. I knew I was going to an F next, so all I did was keep walking up a C major scale until I got to an F. So C, D, E, F. Most of the time on music like that, it's just an interesting way to give the song some motion to get from one chord to the next. Like a... all that I did was go from a G, then F sharp, F, E, to get to an E minor chord. And those some chromatic notes in there, or one chromatic note from an E, G to F sharp to an F, and then to an E. So you might want to just consider what chords you're playing. Like if you're playing through a G, C, D progression, just consider what chord you're playing and where you're starting on. And then just fill in the gaps with whatever key you're in with that major scale.
Yeah.
That's a good way to start thinking about it. And a lot of times that's what it's going to be anyways.
Yeah, I would say the exact same thing.
That's a great tone for lead stuff and high gain, but it's not very good for clean stuff.
It's all right.
Eh.
Sounds good to me. Next one from Onir. Okay, this is actually a good question. So the opening song, was it in C major? I'm practicing my key identification.
Are you saying the other ones weren't good? Is that what
No,
you're saying?
I just like this one.
Okay.
I thought it was good change.
Yeah, this one is this jam track. Here, I'll play it for you again real quick. Let's see. Drum fill. That's E minor chord. To a D minor chord. And that's all it is over and over again, 4 measures of each. And all I was going to tell you about this, all it is an Apple loop that I literally clicked on there, drug over, and then put a drum beat to it. That's a great way to take whatever resource you have and get a musical application out of it, right? Super simple, anybody can do that.
Yeah.
But this chord progression is open to interpretation.
Yes.
You could think about it being in C major, I suppose.
Because diatonically, that would be the only 2 minor chords in a row, right?
Right, but there's some notes in the background that sitar is playing. I didn't analyze them. I didn't really listen to them, and they may be affecting what you can play over it. I don't think they are, but they could. I would have to listen to it a little bit closer.
They feel like they are, for sure.
So you could think about being in C major, or you could think about over the E being an E Phrygian, which sounded a little weird to me. That's why I didn't go with that. And then moving down to the D being a D Dorian. What I did, or what I was thinking, is in general being an E minor chord, right? E minor arpeggio, still just E minor, and then I was thinking E natural minor. And then when I moved to the D, for some reason, I don't know why, if I just wanted, if my ear just wanted to change, I thought D Dorian, just because that's what I like to hear over that, and it was just a D minor chord, so that's what I did.
I thought, what the heck is going on? But as far as like diatonic, like
diatonically speaking, it could be in C major.
Yeah. And then Onir has a follow-up question. What are chops?
Chops are your technical ability on the guitar.
Yeah.
That's it.
Usually related to speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chops, chop shop. It's a kind of just a buzzword, or I don't know what else to call it in the guitar world.
It's just kind of jargon.
Pretty much any instrument.
Yeah, chops is usually referring to speed or technique, like you said. Okay. We got 4 more to go. We're getting there. We're moving nice and quick. This one is from Jams. One tip I use is, in order to break the boredom of practicing the same thing over and over, is to set the amp to different settings and use the tone knobs on the guitar and various pedals to give a variety of sounds to the same practice routine.
Yep.
So just experiment with different tones while you're practicing different things.
Yeah. I oftentimes, like when I'm practicing at home, I just have my little Classic 30 PDM.
Yep.
And sometimes I get bored with the distortion on it, so I just go grab one pedal and plug it in. It's always a different one, whichever overdrive I'm feeling at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I practiced clean 99% of the time.
I have been, but I've been trying to. I noticed that lately when I've been plugging into an amp that's overdriven or something, it's not there. So I've been trying to plug in to and the context that I would normally play, because I would say I'd play with overdrive on my guitar 70% of the time.
Yeah.
So I want to be able to actually use what I'm practicing.
Absolutely.
But I gotta say I do prefer the sound of a clean guitar when I'm practicing.
Yeah.
Unless I'm playing metal or something.
Yeah. And I cheat because I use a compressor, which makes it feel like I have overdrive on. So I'm not doing it because I'm one of those people that's like, so I can hear every mistake. I still hide the mistakes. Another question, which I also like, Nate. I like this question
I
too.
like them all.
I like them all equally. From Mayberry 2017, do you allow any noodling time in your practice sessions?
100%. I usually try to save it for a reward, but that's not always the case. A lot of times, just warming up,
Yeah.
I'll just noodle
Yeah.
and have a YouTube video or something on. Or at the end of a practice session, then I'll be like, I can do whatever I want. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it's important to allow for that. Otherwise, you could get bored and be like, oh, this is so academic. Or, I just stink.
Yeah.
Or you could also feel, or like if you don't allow for it, you could sit down and be like, I just want to play.
Yeah.
And then all your practice time is gone with just noodling time. So I think it is important to have some set aside time every day or every week to just play and be therapeutic with your guitar. Yeah.
Yeah. When you said 100%, I was like, oh yeah, that's how much of my time is
100%
noodling
of my
time.
time goes to
100%.
noodling.
Yeah, I am very guilty of that, and it's definitely not always good, but necessary.
Did I think I may have skipped something on here.
Do you?
Keep going and
Okay.
I'll pull it up.
Well, I don't want to read a question if you can't listen.
Oh, I think I did. I think I
Okay.
left out number 4 on the teaching part. Don't avoid things you suck at. It's true.
Yeah.
Like if I were more disciplined about this, I'd be a much better guitar player. Like there are certain things that I just bad at, and it's like it's going to require so much effort, and I'm going to be so bad at it at first. Like I went through that with memorizing the notes on the fretboard. Now I'm
Yeah.
going through memorizing exactly which note is which number in all my keys, and I'm like, if I just sat down, made it a priority to work on something that I suck at for like 6 months, it would be done,
Yeah.
or at least I would have be miles ahead of where I am.
Yeah.
So don't avoid things you suck at. If
Yeah.
you're terrible at fingerstyle, but you really want to play fingerstyle,
Yeah.
just work on it and be terrible at it for a while. You'll get better.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no doubt. That's great advice. Cool. I love that. That was an important part we almost missed.
Yeah,
eh?
I know. I don't know. I'll skip that.
Okay, back to questions. 3 to go. So this one is from Zopum14. I have been struggling with picking up licks. Is it worthwhile memorizing a bunch of them, or is it better to get 4 or 5 together and just play with them? Any suggestions?
Is it worthwhile to memorize a bunch of them or just 4 or 5?
Yeah, is it better to have like a bunch of licks or focus on just a few and using those differently?
Yes. Yes. No, the value in just having a few of them under your belt is, if you only know a few of them, you can dig deeper into them and realize exactly what's going on against the chord you're playing. And then instead of just knowing a lick, you're figuring out how that lick works in a harmonic context or over chords, and you can make up new stuff based on that idea. So you get the concept of that lick down instead of just where to put your fingers.
Yeah.
The cool thing about knowing tons of licks, is that you have a big vocabulary that you can pull out anytime you want.
Yeah.
But it's great to have licks down, but it's equally important to know where they come from and how they're being used over the chords you're playing. I remember the first guitar teacher besides my dad that I ever had, he's like, well, that's all solos are, is a bunch of licks and you string them together. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
which I don't necessarily think that that's true, but it is one way to go about it.
Yeah. That's the great thing about with lead guitar stuff and picking up licks. There's so many different approaches, right?
Yep.
So many different approaches. That's why Nate and I sound so different, because we have very different approaches. And then a follow-up question, what is a good resource for learning licks? I mean, a great one is just listening to your favorite guitar players, just gleaning as much as you can.
Make a list of songs that you want to learn that are reasonable, for your skill level, and then, make a list and then say, okay, this week I'm gonna go through this song and learn some licks. I think that's the best, because if you go to like a resource and just start sifting through it, you can spend a ton of time just being like, what do I want to learn, and that it can be a little bit counterproductive as far as wasting time. But first, make a list of songs you want to learn, and there's tons of resources out there for learning specific licks. When you type in, I want to learn this lick from this Leonard Skinner song, bam, there it is. Just work on that.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to do it. Another question came in, so we got 2 more. This is from Little Bear 1 Nate. What brand of in-ear monitors do you use?
I use just the cheapest Shure SE215s.
Yep.
And I reuse the cheap ones because I go running in these, I mow the yard in these, I clean the house in these.
Yeah.
And I go through about a pair of them every year and a half or 2 years. But they have a great warranty.
Yeah.
But Andrew has a lot nicer ones.
Yeah, they're customs. They're the Ultimate Ear ones. And the thing is if I were going to use them for everything, it probably wouldn't be a good idea because they break down
Yeah.
pretty quick. Yeah. And then our final question. This one is from Mark Knopfler. I love that.
No. now I'm nervous.
Yeah, you better be nervous. This is an interesting question. So what are some good websites that you could suggest for practicing chords, lead playing, etc.? Just anything to practice on the guitar. So maybe like, I mean, a good one is guitarlessons.com. You know what? I would think maybe you aren't exploring the songs section of the site as much as you could, because in my mind, like that's the best way to practice the actual techniques. There's so many of those songs that you can just search for a specific technique and then play one of the songs.
Right.
I don't know, do you have any other ideas?
Man, the way I learn most of the stuff is when I get in a musical situation where I have to learn a song.
Same, yeah.
Whether it's for a church gig, whether it's a cover gig, whether it's for work, because of this. And that's most of the time, other than that, I'm working on playing over changes,
Yep.
you know, lead stuff, because that's what I like to do, or chops, those types of things. But get together with some friends and pick out
Yeah.
a couple, you know, a little short set list, and then pick songs that you want to learn. That's the best way
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah, I'd agree. Getting a musical context. I mean, if you can even get one other buddy who plays, somebody else who plays, it really does help.
Because like Andrew, he has a chord progression in his head. I have no idea what it is. We're fixing to play to it.
Yeah.
But it's probably not something that I would come up with, or at least not any, you know, in the next 2 months or something like that. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah.
playing with another person, or you know what's really good? Band in a Box.
What's that?
It's a software program that you can program chord progressions in. It has a bunch of pre-programmed in chord progressions. Actually, I want
That's
to get
cool.
it just for improvising.
Yeah, that's very cool. Very cool. That's good to know. One more question snuck in, so we'll just hit that one quick. It's from Kirsty. Hi, can you give me any tips on learning bar chords? I'm really struggling to make the shapes. Insight, or I might be doing something wrong as I have a burst blood vessel in your first finger. Ow, that's not fun.
That's happened to me before, like right here. I don't know if you can see where I'm pointing to, but right there.
Yeah.
And that was like after a 4-hour cover gig playing acoustic.
Ugh.
But make sure your guitar is set up. If it's really hard to play, take it to your local music store and make sure it's set up easy to where you can play it as easily as possible without it hurting your hands, but you know you're not getting any buzzing.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the actual bar chord, there are a couple things. If you haven't gone through Bar Chords 1 on the site, all of these tips are there. I was really exhaustive with that series, so go ahead and make sure to check that out.
Yeah.
But the first step is to just start building your strength in your bar and getting your technique right before you actually start to put the bar chord shapes on with your other fingers. So all these tips are covered, like I said, finger right behind the fret. Tilt your finger back a little bit because it's a little bit easier to make a good sound of the bar chord on this bony part of your finger rather than the really fleshy middle part. So right behind the fret, tilt your finger back a little bit, and then play around with your spacing, your vertical spacing with your finger to make sure to minimize the buzzing that the creases on your finger can make. For me, that's right about there. And make sure your thumb is on the back to create that clamp, back of the neck. And then just start working on moving that up and down the fretboard. That's step number 1. And this is easy on electric, but I haven't played much acoustically, so I'd probably be like, a little bit out of shape.
Totally.
So you have to keep this in shape, and you have to do this a lot. But go through and make sure every single note's clean. If it is, great. If not, go through those technique tips that we just went over. Bring your elbow in. That's another big one. If you hit up here like this, it's going to be really tough to get that bar clean, so bring your elbow in. And just spend a couple days, or probably a couple weeks if you're new to bar chords, just doing that. That's it. You don't have to spend a lot of time on that, 5-10 minutes a day, just making sure that your hand is in shape and your technique is memorized to where you don't even have to think about it. You just go automatically to that, and all those kind of mechanics are there. Once you're done with that, then you can start trying to put the shape with it. But take it one step at a time and do the same thing. Once you get one shape down, just move it up and down. And it does take some effort because those are the hardest chords as far as physically demanding chords, as far as strength, I would say, on the guitar. They're the hardest ones to make. As far as that, they may not be the hardest ones to stretch and get your fingers to contort in, but as far as strength on
Yeah.
acoustic, I would say they're probably the hardest.
Yeah.
So take some time, develop the strength and technique in your index finger. If it takes 2 to 3 weeks, that's fine. And then put the shape with it, and then try to go through that same thing. And then as soon as you can, you're feeling comfortable with it, comfortable with it, get a play along that's like level, I don't know, 3 or 4 probably on the site, and just work on bar chords in a musical context. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, very good. Okay, that's it for questions. That was a lot of questions. That was great. Yeah, exactly. So next week, we are going to be doing the natural minor scale, and that kind of is going to coincide. I know minor scales 1 is going to be coming out shortly for those of you guys who are members, so it's going to kind of coincide. So that'll be a fun one. That will be Tuesday, July 25th, so next Tuesday. I'm trying to think other than that. Should we, oh, yeah, we'll close out with a surprise chord progression.
I have no idea what's coming.
I don't either. Just kidding. Okay, well, guys, thank you for coming out, and thank you for all the great questions, and we will see you guys next week.